A warm welcome to all of you, wherever you might be tuning in from. You're tuning in from across the U.S. Glad to have you on today. It is 10:26 a.m. here in the United States Central Time. It is 6:26 East African Time. So delighted to have you here on the show today. So as we continue this conversation around driving a positive diaspora narrative, today we're going to engage in a very interesting discussion for the next 2.5 hours. But we'll begin with a very interesting topic, and we'll be going to Kenya, where we're going to bring in one of the media personalities there. Again, as you noted from the previous weeks, we've had guests from Kenya talking about politics, talking about government, talking about businesses, and also about media. But today we want to focus on another interesting topic that is very dear to many, and that is sports, the role of sports in social and economic development. In that discussion today, we're honored to have on the show one of the very best of all time, journalist from Kenya, Elias Macaulay. His resume is so rich that I cannot be able to go through the entire resume, but just a quick highlight that he is currently the senior editor with the senior editor for sports in the Nation Media Group in Nairobi, a major newspaper across the continent of Africa. So we're honored to have him here. He's got distinguished career, I think, over the last 28 years, a person I've personally followed right from when I was a very young man. But no doubt we're going to engage in a very interesting conversation. We'll be talking about the state of sports in Kenya. We'll be talking about athletics, soccer. We'll be talking about the role of the media. We'll also be talking about what the diasporans can do in developing sports back in Africa, and many other questions that we might have. Meanwhile, if you have any questions for Elias, please feel free to make those comments on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. But for now, here's the man of the hour. Yes, but Elias, Ujambo.
Ujambo, how are you doing? How is your day?
Very good. So it's good. Those who don't understand whether I'm just simply saying, how are you? So, hey, Elias, look, before I even start asking you any question, let me begin this. And I know every Kenyan across the US and around the world really are always interested in what's happening in Kenya. So I know for me, I miss a lot of my talkers in Kisii. I miss Nyama Choma. What else are we missing?
Of course, the fine weather. It's been raining for the last few weeks, but the weather is brilliant, and looking forward to another exciting week. A lot of sports coming up this week, especially.
Very good to hear. So the next question I might ask you, and before I even ask you, like I said in the intro, I'm one of your biggest admirers from the time I was a young man. Watching you, your work in the media was fantastic. So I want to appreciate you for the wonderful, incredible work you've done actually for not just sports, but the media for the country, I think, for the last almost 3 decades. So I know many people follow you. Will appreciate this, that we salute you for the wonderful job you've done over the years and will continue to do so. Okay, so do you mind introducing yourself very quickly again for just what you do at the moment?
Well, actually, I wear many hats, but all of them in sports. At the moment, like you said, I'm the editor in charge of sports at the Nation Media Group. As you know, we have various outlets. We have the Daily Nation, we have the East African Taifa Leo, we have the Business Daily, and also we have the NTV, the television channel, plus of course we have Nation FM, that's our radio channel. So those are the properties that we have in Nation Media Group, and of course we are across in Uganda and Tanzania with sister newspapers there. And I'm basically my role is to take care of sports, and that's what I've been doing, like you rightly said, for about 3 decades now. I joined the Nation Media Group in 1992. That's the end of the year. And before that, of course, I was just an aspiring young journalist, and I decided to sport as my main area of focus, because I believe it's always good to specialize in something and try and be good at it, so that the audiences can really maximize on your experience. Yeah, that's what I'm doing at the moment. And also I'm helping out in various areas, like this coming weekend. We have a major international track and field meeting called the KDRTV Classic. I'm also head of meet for that. We are looking to getting quite a number of good athletes coming to Nairobi on Saturday for that competition. It's part of a global circuit, and it's the first one in Africa. And just His Excellency the President Uhuru Kenyatta opened the Nyayo National Stadium, which has been refurbished, and this will be the first major event. And it will also be the first major, international engagement in Kenya after this COVID disaster. So really, it will be a shop window for the world to look into Kenya through the eyes of sport. The athletes will come. It will be on global television. That's from 4 p.m. Kenyan time up to 6 p.m. Kenyan time. So the whole world will be watching. And this is an opportunity for, the world to look at Kenya through sports. And that I always maintain that sports is a very, very important aspect in our society. This is going to be an opportunity for Kenya to say, hey, we are open for business, and it's being done through sports. And also the following day on Sunday, we have the London Marathon, a huge team of Kenyan athletes. And as we speak, there's an aircraft on the tarmac in Eldoret which has come to pick Eliud, a specially chartered plane from London. So that shows how big sport is and how big Kenya is in sport, and that's what I'm engaged in.
And no doubt, actually, Kenya, it's a sporting nation. And I think one of the titles that any Kenyan around the world can be very proud of is the fact that we do extremely well. And we'll be engaging into deeper conversation around that. So the other question I want to ask you before we go even further, I'm a fanatic of soccer. And I have to admit that we're having this show when my team, Manchester City, is playing. So it's really kind of frustrating, but also okay. So how are you dealing with COVID-19? I hate to imagine that we go to stadiums without fans, but how are you guys dealing with the COVID-19 so far from your end?
Well, actually, it's a bit of a complicated scenario. I say complicated because I was also in a committee. I was appointed by the Minister of Sport, Honorable Amina Mohammed, to look into the resumption of sports protocols. And a week ago, she read out our report where we were recommending a phased return of sports, meaning that yes, sports is reopening, but in phases, beginning with the low contact sports, like lawn tennis, sports where there is no really physical engagement, and the risks of COVID-19 will be low. And then also we'll be looking at opening up gradually other sports as the federations continue putting into place measures that will help keep COVID-19 at bay, like clean sanitization, making sure that the players, the evacuation systems are in good well arranged in case of any emergencies. And also the spectators are safe, so that there's social distancing. So it's a really phased opening of the sports. But again, it's very difficult because on one hand, we are saying let us be measured in opening, where you find sports like have not been given the green light. But on the other hand, we're seeing political rallies attended by thousands of people where there's no social distancing. So the same leaders who are preaching water are actually drinking wine by, gathering large assemblies, which is a major risk regarding COVID-19. So we are looking at a phased return, and hopefully soon football will be back. People are waiting for the local league. The clubs are really struggling because there are no finances. There was a government subsidy put in place where they're giving each player about 10,000 shillings per month just to cushion them over this period. But even that was not for the entire period. So yeah, people are waiting for something enough so that perhaps the revenues can come in. Like our athletes have not been competing on the global circuit. They have not earned any money since March. So it's really a difficult period.
Okay, that's good. Get into that in a moment. So good news that as I'm talking to you, I'm so happy that my team has just scored. So Riyad Mahrez just scored a spectacular goal against Leicester. That made me even more happier. So I think we're going to win. So for the sake of diasporans who are watching this, and of course everybody is so intrigued into sports, want to know, how do you summarize the state of sports in Kenya in 2, 3, 4 sentences? How do you summarize it so far? I think you've been in sports for a very long time, but how do you summarize that?
Well, we are still very far. We are still very far. There's a lot of potential, but sport needs to go the professional way, like you have in the US, for example, in Europe, where it's taken as a full time career by people. Slowly but slowly, we are getting there. Like I said, on Saturday we have the first track and field meeting of international standard in Kenya, and this will go on for 3 years. So it's a 3-year period. We also have the World Rally Championship, the Safari Rally getting back onto the World Rally Championship next year. And the Kenya Open Golf is also on the European Tour. So slowly by slowly, more events are getting into that serious professional, standards. And would love to see also our teams, get serious professional management. Gormaya and FC Lopers are always, out with their begging balls because they have not really marketed, they have not built themselves into strong outfits in terms of marketing and corporate support, looking for corporate support. But slowly we're getting there. But I'm afraid we are still way out there, and a lot has to be done, especially from the management part of it.
Two aspects I want to focus for now: athletics and soccer. But let's begin with athletics. I think athletics does really put Kenya on a very good spot on the global sports. And I think that's what we're known for. And compared to other countries, we were talking about Brazil, soccer is okay. You go to England, they're very good in soccer, in these other countries. But you're talking about Kenya, pretty much you're talking about athletics. We still have a long way to go with soccer. So what's going on? Once in a while, we see these superstars come to the global stage, do extremely well, and see they disappear very quickly. What do you think from your perspective? What's wrong with that?
I think it's we don't have strong development programs, especially for the junior athletes. And again, there is the lure of financial rewards from the road races. You see, when a kid is 17, 18, starting a career, ideally, that athlete needs to do maybe another 10 years on the track, running the 5,000 meters up to the 10,000 meters before venturing onto the roads. Once you go to, before you get to road racing, you need to have the experience of the track. Like Eliud Kipchoge, he did quite a number of years on the track. He was a world champion in the 5,000 meters in Paris in 2003. Then after that, he got onto the half marathons and full marathon. Now he's full time on the road. But these kids rush onto the road because that's where the money is. When you go to the Chicago Marathon, New York Marathon, London Marathon, which is this weekend, you get very, very good money. You can get $200,000 as prize money. But in the other shorter racetrack, it's not as attractive, and the numbers are few, so it's very easy for people to break out. In China now we have dozens of races where Kenyan athletes win every other day. So they go there, they run a lot, they burn out, and that's how their career ends prematurely. Instead of having a focus on a plan. And again, another problem will be that the managers could be, some of them are quite selfish. They want to make sure these athletes runs a lot of time, a lot of races, gets quick money. The agent gets his 25% per race without looking at the longevity of that athlete. And once the athlete is burnt out, he simply goes. The manager goes and fetches another one because there's a lot of talent in Kenya. You lose this athlete today, tomorrow there's one waiting in the wings. So the managers are also messing up. And it's very, very sad to say that 90.5% of the foreign money of the managers for Kenyan athletes are foreigners. There are no Kenyan managers. So really, they're running the show.
That's very painful to listen. And trust me, I'm a fanatic of athletics. And David Rudisha, for example, put us on a global map. My all-time, I think, Vivian Cherwood, for me, that's the excellent athlete. Trust me, I even go on YouTube to watch this shows, and many more were coming. And I've seen a lot of foreign media and experts going to Kenya, particularly to LeTourneau, to do more research so to have a good understanding as why do people from that part of the country do better. Then why are we not having Kenyan agents and managers really, having had some of these sportsmen for such a long time?
Sorry, I didn't get the last part of the question clearly.
So you are mentioning that most of the agents are not necessarily Kenyans, or managers are not Kenyans. Why are we not having Kenyans manage Kenyans, having been a sporting nation for such a long time? I think we have, Elias is frozen. Okay. So, okay, we are working on getting back Elias from Nairobi. I think that's the problem you do expect once in a while when you're doing this cross-Atlantic kind of broadcast. So that happens to be a problem. We're just talking about the state of sports in Kenya, and we're focusing more specifically on athletics as what's really happening there. And I was mentioning the fact that, yes, athletes do a very good job, but most of the managers or agents are not Kenyans, and for that reason, it becomes a problem for them to develop. But also Elias acknowledging the fact that there are so many talented young athletes in Kenya, and I think that's a use and misuse aspect that most foreign agents or managers do, at least based on what is stating. I think that's a very, very sad reality. So in a moment, we're going to bring him back on so that we can continue that conversation. And if you are watching, meanwhile, don't forget to go to facebook.com and follow us on Facebook. Also go to YouTube, try to follow us there as well. And on Twitter, please follow us. I think that's important. If you have any questions specific for Elias and the sporting fraternity in Kenya, please post that question on Facebook comment section. We'll be happy to relay those questions to him as well in a few minutes. So I'm not sure that we have Ben. Do we have Elias back on? Okay, so we don't have him. Okay, so we do have him on. Elias, are you there? Okay. So we don't have Elias back. That's the problem. So therefore, we continue talking about that. And if you're sports enthusiast, I just okay. So we have you back on. I was just going to start reporting to the viewers what's happening in Manchester, as Manchester still is leading 1-0. So it's okay. So yeah, did you get the question, or do I have to repeat that? Okay, technical problem again there.
Kindly repeat.
Okay. So, are you there, Elias? So I was saying a moment ago that
I can hear you.
Why are we not having Kenyan managers manage Kenyan athletes?
Well, it's a complicated issue. It's really about finances also, because one is finances, and two, that's been, these international athletes is really it's sort of it is what I'd call a boys' club. Maybe you find these people are the managers in Europe and US. They have good connections in all these road races, so they can enter the athletes easily, which is very difficult for our own people, to have those connections. And again, when an athlete is based in Europe, like most of them are, it's easier logistically, because then they have their, sort of hotels or hostels where the athletes can go and stay over a period doing the race and then come back home. So you see, the agent in Kenya will be at a huge disadvantage, because he or she has to book, a hotel, let's say in Europe, for the athletes to be operating from. So in terms of, capital, the foreign managers have better capital, they have better facilities, and they have this athlete will come and stay somewhere in Netherlands over even 2-3, but for manager, you mean getting hotel accommodation for 3 weeks for an athlete is pretty bad. Our managers have.
But okay, let's talk about soccer. Every time I'm in Kenya, trust me, there is no sport I go to where people are not talking about Chelsea, they're not talking about Manchester, Arsenal, or those foreign teams. But let's focus back home. Why are we not developing from the soccer perspective? I remember those heydays of JJ Masiga, Mohamed Abbas, Motego, all those great soccer stars. Why are we not moving ahead there?
I think, again, just like the case in athletics, the structures are not in place, because ironically, we used to have what we used to call the Olympic Youth Centers, where athletes would be, accommodated and trained by specialized coaches. These most coaches from Germany, and it was very successful. You mentioned people like JJ Masiga and others. A lot of athletes to that particular system, and then from there, once your academy can, a path to the clubs or a career. Don't have then because if you look at other countries, top clubs like Manchester City, you have a club, in a particular country that kids develop, and then the scouts have a look at them and get them onto the big league. We don't have that development of getting them into serious football. And again, we hope that our education curriculum, the new one, will allow, because the kids, there's too much reading, there's too much work. Look at in Europe, for example, in the States, if you have talent, you get into an academy where sport and education, and the people who are good in a particular sport are given more time to practice the sport. You go to class for a few hours, and then the rest 14, under 18, under 23, and then you progress. But in Kenya, we don't have those structures, and there's too much. Make a quick buck because the money coming through from FIFA, from the African Federation, and so yeah, we are serious about football. I'm sorry.
Okay, so clearly we're having a technical difficulties getting your audio there, Elias, but we'll try to do our very best to pass the message across. So one of the reasons as to why sports, I think, does well in the West and more so in Europe is the media. I think once the camera is somewhere, I think obviously that spotlights the socio-economic development for whatever that is. So if you're talking about Manchester, whatever, it really, the media does play a role. And you guys in the media house do also have a major role to play really in boosting sports and in the country. Do you think you have, quote unquote, the political will to do your job so that you highlight sports as a key indicator of social and economic development?
We are doing well in the Kenyan media, but I must confess that it could be better. The nation, I've taken a particular stand would give 90% of sports to others who are really focusing too much on, like you mentioned, the Premier League. You get pages and pages of the Premier Kenyan. That is our spend. We cannot highlight the successes of bowlers, our volleyballers, our netballers, our athletes from the spring. We need to highlight more local sport. The Premier League, you can get it at the touch of a button. Like now you're watching Manchester City, but you wouldn't know what is happening in Wend or in. So we need our sport and not amplify, the Western sports that are already can help what we can coming through. Look at what Eliud Kipchoge has done, for example. He's been able to attract a lot of sponsorship because of his performance and because we focus his performances and his successes. So yeah, the media needs to do more to the local sport than focusing on Western media. I mean, Westerns, these are things you can watch on TV, you can get on your phone, easily. But getting the stories about that come out.
Quite frankly, sometimes I watch from a distance. I see athletes go overseas and they come home, win. All I see is them being received at the airport with some murusik and then immediately board a pass to the villages, and that is the end of their story. It's so disheartening. When you have somebody like David Rudisha, quite frankly, talk about Bolt, for example, Usain Bolt and David Rudisha on the global stage. Quite frankly, David Rudisha should be the icon on the international stage. But really, comparatively, it's like Rudisha didn't even make any contribution in the sports in the nation. That's so sad when you look at those factors. So I think the media has a role to play. And then if you look at countries like Brazil, it's because of sports that they really do pretty good. And I think you've traveled to so many countries around the world, so you understand what I'm talking about here. So, Elias, there are many sport. Go ahead.
Very good that you mentioned Rudisha and you brought it up because in athletes take higher. You find athletes getting into comment. A lot of commentators are former athletes, but in Kenya we don't have Rudisha, hey, look here, David, your career is almost over. You're a legend. You need to get into commentary. You know, you will be paid a tidy sum by people like people. Because when Rudisha is on TV doing commentary, say on 800 meters, who will not listen to him? I mean, he's the best in the event, and whatever he says goes. So that progression from active athletics into post athletics careers, which commentating, doing broadcast, that's what our Kenyan athletes need to look into. That's why you are saying, for example, Rudisha has faded away and Usain Bolt is still getting endorsements. It's because of what they do outside.
So I hope those ones in thought, and I'm sure some of these questions, quite frankly, should be directed to the person in charge of sports, the minister. If we can have the minister talk to us, that'd be great. Now let's take a moment and talk about diasporans, because key point, we're talking about diaspora. What's the role of diaspora in all this? So what do you see? I know you've tried so many countries, that come 100 plus countries around the world, but let's focus on the Kenyans in the diaspora. I think, and I always say this on this show, there are no better ambassadors of Kenya than the Kenyans who are elsewhere, not the guys who are posted in different embassies around the world. The Kenyans, I show you before the show, I show you this thing that we all have, right? The pride of the nation. All Kenyans really are interested in doing this. So talk to them. What do you think should be the role of the diasporans in developing sports in Kenya?
Looking for opportunities for our athletes. That's number one. I mentioned about the advantage that foreign managers have vis-a-vis our own managers. And one of the advantages they have is that they have bases of operation in Europe, in America, in Asia. So it's easy for them to get the Kenyan athletes and have them in an accommodation. I'd like to see a scenario whereby the Kenyans in diaspora, come up together and say, hey, look here, there's a hostel here. Why can't we put resources together, get a few athletes to come and enjoy good training facilities here, enter them into races like in Atlanta. I mean, the Peachtree Road Race, it's a huge race. And it's a good opportunity for Kenyans who are really developing. So if Kenyans in Atlanta could say, let's contribute, let's say maybe take care of a week's accommodation for 10, 15 athletes to come and run and make some money of it, that contribution will help, because the biggest problem our athletes have is accommodation, air tickets and training facilities. Also, Kenyans in the diaspora have good access to universities, quality education. You can get universities to do partnerships with Kenyan sport, so that you get a kid who is in Form 4, has finished Form 4, can get a scholarship. I know Paul Ereng, who is a former Olympic champion, is doing a great job at UTEP in El Paso, Texas. He's got a few Kenyans, and he's a coach there. So he comes to Kenya, goes all the way to Kisii, to Kilgore, is looking at talent, and then he brings them into Unity on scholarships. If Kenyans in diaspora could look for these opportunities, scholarship opportunities especially, that will go a long way in getting our kids to go there out, get exposure. Major League Soccer, MLS, is another big thing. US is hosting the World Cup in 2026. It's an opportunity for Kenyans to try and come and get into the Major League Soccer before it gets complicated. Right now, it's the best league I can say in the world to join as you are starting your career, because the others in Europe are a bit too competitive. You see, like Victor Wanyama is now playing in Canada, the Canadian franchise for the MLS. So these opportunities should be looked for, and the Kenyans in diaspora can really help. I know there are many who are lecturing in universities, some are in even sports faculties. They really need to think about how do we get our Kenyan talented young kids to come up there, because number one, they'll help them get the exposure, get the events to run in, make some money, and more importantly, get good education, so that after that they fall back and have a career. There's the current managing director of Rivertex, for example, the textile company, is a former athlete who was in Texas. He ran, finished his career, got into education, and now he's a professor at Moi University and managing director of Rivertex. So these are the stories we need to see, and that's how the diaspora can help by trying to get these opportunities.
Good point, and I think I have to admit the fact that we really haven't had such kind of forum where the Kenyans in diaspora really have an opportunity to have this kind of dialogues. I think what we've seen over the years, politicians who all the time come over here and talk politics, and they pretty much it's talk, and nothing comes out of it. And I think this is the first time we here at KDRTV trying to engage with you guys, and going forward, maybe from your end, we'll be very happy to partner with you so that we continue making the story. And I'm sure that there are very many Kenyans in Atlanta. There are many Kenyans in Texas, East Coast. There are a lot of them. And if anybody's coming to the Duluth Marathon here in the state of Minnesota, I'll be happy to host them. I'll be very happy to help out, and so I think that would be great. So here's another question before I move on. Ben, the technical, my boss here, was asking a question about the Hall of Fame. Is so much attached to the fact that there are so many Kenyans who have gone before us, but who did incredibly good work. And Ondieki Mayoro, for example, Joe Kadenge, many others who passed on in the most miserable and the most abject way. Is there anything that can be done with the diasporans or the media house or the politicians in Kenya to make sure that we have at least a Hall of Fame to honor those ones who really held our flag high?
Yeah, the ministry, the government has been trying to put up, an organization to look at the legends, to take care of the legends. It's very slow, and a lot more needs to be done. Even Athletics Kenya is trying to look at perhaps, coming up with a way of financing, because it's very sad, like you said, Nantika Mayoro. I mean, I spoke to him a few days before he died, and he was saying, reach out to the government, reach out to the president. I need to, pay my hospital bills. Actually, helped also contribute a bit to a few of his hospital bills. He passed on sadly, and others, many have passed on. You saw Joe Kadenge also passed on. There needs to be a structure really that takes care of these legends. First of all, defining who a legend is, and then look at how these legends will be compensated, will be kept, comfortable after doing service for the country. So I agree, a lot more needs to be done. And that really should be the responsibility of the Kenyan government, because these people fly the Kenyan flag when they go out there. And the government really needs to return the favor and say, thank you for what you've done. We are giving you pension for the rest of their life. But it's sad because you look at Parliament, for example, they only discuss about their own. The other day they were talking about getting pensions of, I think, 100,000 per month for the rest of their lives. They don't think about the other people. Very rarely do you get any debate on the floor of the House regarding sport. But they're very quick to get their impress, to get their travel allowances, to go out to the Olympic Games, to do quote unquote benchmarking, and they come back and they don't implement anything. So it's very sad. And we are really fighting to get the sports conversation, go all the way to the National Assembly. Let people talk sports, and that way we'll create more interest and more attention to sports. The national budget allocation to sports is always is paltry, really. I mean, it's hardly anything to talk about. So all these things contribute to the welfare of the athletes. If the budget is increased, and then medical care of these people taken care of, their accommodation, a permanent solution rather than handouts that are given every time an election comes close.
Said, and I think that's why I said before, the role of the media. I think the role of the media, it's really imperative that really media has a place really here to highlight the very best. I honestly shed tears when I saw Ondieki Mayoro. The old man was literally dying in a hospital, just not even half a mile from Kisii County government offices. The same politicians who could not even help him were the same politicians at his funeral. I just felt so bad that they did even bother to do that. And I hope going forward, KDRTV and other media outlets, if we could try to highlight really the role sports does play in socioeconomic development, that would be very, very helpful if we could. So before we get to the questions or comments from the viewers, here's a question for you. Why are Kenyans so fanatical with the English Premier League, Bundesliga, Series A, and not ours in Kenya?
Well, that's an interesting question. I don't know how to answer, because I'm also a keen follower of those leagues. Yesterday, we got a penalty after the game ended, Manchester United, and it was a controversial finish. Well, the league has been marketed well. They have the finest players in those European leagues. And also accessibility. I mean, they are all on television. It's easy to follow. The stories of the players are told. And that's what I'm saying. In Kenya, we have a challenge. We can get there as long as we, talk more about our own sports, about our own sports people. We've been writing a lot about athletics, and that's really helping. Like I said, Eliud Kipchoge is somebody that says like Cristiano Ronaldo, because now he's a mega star because of his achievement and the way he's been highlighted in the media. Like I said, in the next 1 hour, the plane is taking off from Eldoret, a special plane that has been brought by the organizers of the London Marathon to pick Eliud Kipchoge from Eldoret and take him all the way to London. So he's no longer flying commercial, and that's where we want our sports people to be. Let them be elevated to the status that they really deserve, and let's spend money on them. Let's write about them, and that way, we'll get closer to the leagues that we are following. These you have fans from all over, supporting every other team, including Leeds United, which just got promoted. You'll find there's a group, a Leeds United supporters team in Kenya. So these are because of basically how the leagues are marketed. The NBA, we follow the NBA quite a lot here in Kenya, despite the early hours that the games are on, because of the marketing again, and the way people like LeBron have been lifted to superstar status. People want to see them play, and really, the more we write about our athletes, our footballers, our volleyballers, netballers, rugby players, the more we'll elevate them into that sort of the status like you see in the Premier League, in League One, in La Liga.
So, from your vantage point, Elias, where do you see the state of sports in Kenya over the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I'm happy to say the future is bright, in as much as the government has not delivered on the 5 new stadiums they say they will deliver, because sports really is about infrastructure. It's about opportunities. It's about developing issues, referees, athletes, media, all that ecosystem that survives around sport. At the moment, there's a lot of construction going on. The Kericho Stadium, for example, just got a new synthetic track. The president yesterday did give an ultimatum. He said by December he wants all the stadiums that are being renovated to be complete. So we'll have quite a number of stadiums in good shape. In Meru, Moi Kinoru Stadium, Elgeyo Marakwet, that's Kamarin Stadium. We have the Bukungu Stadium in Kakamega. We have the Mombasa Municipal Stadium, Water Stadium in Makueni. So all over the place, infrastructure is developing, and that's a first important step into developing sport. Once you have the infrastructure, it means you can have serious. You can even have Manchester City coming to play in Nairobi. Previously, it was unthinkable, but now with the facilities, I'm sure Pep Guardiola won't mind. He's been to Mombasa a few times on holiday, so it's easy to convince him to bring his team along. Osem was also in, they go to Malindi very frequently. So if you tell them, bring your team, previously the issue was there's no good ground, but now the grounds are there. They can play at the Nyayo Stadium. I mean, there's fresh turf. It will just open to the president. And like I said again, there are bigger sports events coming up. In March next year, we have the Kenya Open Golf, which is part of the European Tour. We'll have top golfers coming to play, and also that will encourage our golfers to lift their standards. In July, with the World Rally Championship round being run in Kenya under the Safari Rally, again, all the top drivers will be here. They'll encourage our local drivers to do well. In August, we have the World Under 20 Athletics Championships at Kasarani. Once again, an opportunity for our kids to showcase their talent. So the more we have these international events, the more we have good fights, the more we'll get the talent coming up. So I say the future is very bright, and we just hope that the political leadership will focus a little more and fight for bigger budget for sports.
Okay. That's quite encouraging to hear, especially from you. I think your life is revolved around sports, so that's quite encouraging. And especially to hear the fact that those stadiums are now almost active, because the last time I was in Kenya a year or 2 years ago, more international sports, Kasarani was pretty much like a monument, and I'm happy to hear that. Kasarani, I think, Nyayo Stadium was under renovation, so it's good to hear that at least something is happening, and obviously we're wishing you guys nothing but the very best. And again, like I said before, I think the very best of Kenyan ambassadors are those at LeTourneau. I think they make us proud. They give us reason to smile anywhere we go around the world. And I hope if we can part and make sure we tell their stories, I think that would be a good thing for us to do. And I know most diasporans would agree with me on this. So, Elias, before we let you go, I'm going to let you, there are many Kenyans watching you from around the world. And like I said, we appreciate you. I'm going to give you a minute to make your closing statement, talk to Kenyans across the US, across Europe, and that's around the world.
Yeah, thanks again for the opportunity. KDRTV is, doing a great job, highlighting the Kenyan stories. My appeal to Kenyans in diaspora is help the Kenyan sports people get those opportunities. Thank God I've traveled widely, like you said. Actually hoping that all things go well. I could be in Hawaii in December for the Honolulu Marathon with a group of Kenyan athletes. And whenever I go, wherever I go, tell Kenyans, please help our sports people get opportunities. Don't give them fish, teach them how to fish. Get them opportunities for scholarships. There are a lot of schools, a lot of universities, colleges out there that will be happy to have Kenyan runners on their roster of track and field, the track and field team. There are soccer players who could do well out and also excel in academics. As you know, Kenyans really work very hard. Once you give them half a chance, they turn it into a golden opportunity, to succeed. So talk to your universities, talk to companies, those ones, Kenyans in Japan, for example. The Japanese system, they employ athletes to work. For example, like Toyota, you could be, employed as an athlete. At the same time, you are taught a trade, maybe to be a mechanic. Like the late Sami Wanjiru was already an established mechanic, having run for the Toyota company. So if you're in Japan, watching from Japan, look for those opportunities for our athletes. If you are in a city where there's a road race out on running, reach out to the organizers and ask them, hey, look here, do you mind inviting these Kenyan athletes to come and run? Like in Minneapolis, the Twin Cities Marathon is a big one, and Kenyans are always winning. So get these opportunities. And I'm really, for today, I'd like to really emphasize or focus on scholarships, because you get a scholarship, you kill several birds with one stone. You develop your talent, you earn money through the circuit, competing, and most importantly, you get a career, you get an education that will lift you beyond your competition. And that's what you want to see. We don't want to see athletes who make money, become big names, and after their careers are over, or if they pick injuries, they have no fallback plan. So education is the greatest gift that you can give to our athletes, so that they can use it after their careers are over, after the Kenyan flag high, and making us proud. Let them exit, going to their sunset years with a lot of pride, showing that what they've achieved, and encouraging them to get into sport, because sport will open doors for them. It will give them future. We don't want to see stories of athletes dying misery, and their kids looking and saying, hey, look here, this sport dad took my mom nowhere. I don't want to get involved in sports. So let's mix sport and education by getting these opportunities for athletes. That will be my singular for this forum tonight.
Much. Thank you very much. I think that is, again, thank you. I think this will mark the end of it. Thank you. I think Kenyans across the US and around the world do get the message, and I think that's why we're trying to make this forum where we can exchange this kind of ideas, and I think that would be good. The key point is, because we've had for a long time politicians come here, and they're sponsored by many groups, and I think it would be good for us to move further from politicians, also sponsor sportsmen and the media as well, so that we can tell the Kenyan story in a better way than what we've seen in days gone. And by the way, I just want to note for you that go ahead.
Sorry, before you go, I'd also like to encourage you as in the diaspora, whenever there is a big race, let's say the New York Marathon, let this come together and celebrate with the athletes. You can invite them for dinner as a Kenyan community. Let them talk to you about their successes, their challenges. You see, somebody like Eliud Kipchoge has given talks all over the place, including at the Oxford University. So take an advantage and welcome them, because I've traveled with them, and one of the saddest things is that they arrive from the airport to the competition and back to the airport and away. They don't have they don't interact with the local communities. So when you hear there's a marathon near you, reach out, to these athletes, invite dinner, enjoy some meal with them, and celebrate our great country.
Yes, here's what we can do. We are here for you, right? I know you have access to all these media personalities, sports people. Whenever you have a chance, please send them over to us. We'll be very happy to have them on the show so that they can highlight us. In fact, Eliud Kipchoge, if you can, I think he's made the nation so proud. If you let him come over, we'll be very happy to give him airtime, and that would be great. I think that's the contribution we do. And hopefully going forward, this is not the beginning or the end. It's the beginning of many connections and partnership that we're going to have. So thank you so much, Lars Makori from Nairobi. And I think your work in the Kenyan media and sports is incredible. I thank you. KDRTV, thank you. And I'm sure a lot of Kenyans abroad really appreciate the wonderful, wonderful work you've been doing over the years. And please continue to do so. Keep carrying the Kenyan flag as high as you can.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me on the forum, and looking forward to more interesting sports conversations. Forget about these politicians. They come and talk, and once they get elected, see them again. But, sports people, they bring pride and glory to the country.
Yes, this is the forum for them. Let them know we'll be here for them, and we'll try to highlight the Kenyan story as well as we can. So thank you again for our viewers. That was Elias Makori, the senior editor, sports editor, Nation Magazine. By the way, he's one of the best sports journalists in the world. He's been awarded about 4 or 5 times as the best journalist in the world. So it's a really, really very accomplished man talking to us here on KDRTV live from Nairobi, Kenya. So we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be talking to the mayor of Anoka County here in the state of Minnesota, John LeTourneau. Is standing by to engage us in a conversation about what he's doing as a mayor and running as a commissioner for Anoka County. I think that will be done in a short while, right after the commercial break.
With diabetes, but she can't afford her new medication. So after funding his Diaspora account, David enrolls his mother as a beneficiary. We know how stressful it can get to take care of the healthcare needs of your loved ones, especially when they live far away from you. Money transfer services have expensive fees. They cannot ensure that your money is spent on the intended healthcare needs. And there are many questionable pharmacies that sell low-quality, unsafe, and even counterfeit medications. That is why we created Diaspora, a secure, quick, and cost-effective way to pay for the medications of your loved ones through our network of accredited and registered pharmacies. So here's how it works. Meet David. He lives far away from home. Unfortunately, his mother was recently diagnosed with diabetes, but she can't afford her new medication. So after funding his Diaspora account, David enrolls his mother as a beneficiary, and a unique PIN code is issued. Think of this as a digital voucher that David paid for in advance. David's mother presents the PIN code at one of our accredited and registered in-network pharmacies. The cost of her medication is deducted from David's account, and his mother can walk in and out of the pharmacy with the medication she needs. It's as easy as that. David can also assign his uncle who lives close to his mother as a caretaker to help her follow the new diabetes treatments. For extra security, David can also create one-time PIN codes and manually confirm and approve medication purchases too. It's easy to send more money home and hope they got spent on buying safe medication. But what if you can have control over how your money is spent, gain access to safe and quality medication, and purchase multiple medications for multiple family members who are in need? Your money goes a lot farther, and healthcare becomes a lot more inclusive. Diaspora was created by Diaspora members for Diaspora members that help provide greater access to safe, quality, and affordable medications for your loved ones back home. It's time for your loved ones to get the quality medication they need, and for you to get the peace of mind you deserve. Sign up today and register your loved ones for free at diaspocare.com.
Welcome back again to KDRTV Live. It is 11:15 Central Standard Time. It is 7:15 East African Time and 12:16 Eastern Standard Time. So happy again to have, as I said before the break here, we are honored to have on the show today Mayor John LeTourneau for Anoka County Commissioner. I'm not very good spelling that, pronouncing that last name, but it will help us here in a moment. So that is the mayor of Anoka County. Anoka County is in the Anoka City It's in the county of Anoka, and Anoka County is in the state of Minnesota. And Anoka County is the 5th largest county in the state of Minnesota. And honor to have on the show is one man who really depicts nothing but the very best of Minnesota, the Minnesota nice himself, the man, Mayor John LeTourneau. Hey, John, how are you?
Dr. Okari, thank you. Good morning. I am wonderful. How are you?
I am doing pretty good. It's good to see you.
Excellent. It's great to be here. And if I could just clear the record, I am so proud to be the mayor of the city of Ramsey in Anoka County of Minnesota. Wonderful opportunity.
Great. And can I make a passing comment? I thought I had the best tie, but I want to say that your tie is better than mine.
Right, thank you. I will forever be your time mentor now.
Okay, John. John, it's nice to have you on the show. And I think as we talk in private conversation, a lot of, especially minorities and immigrants are really, and especially those ones who are living in the county of Anoka are waiting really to hear what you're saying and what you're looking forward to. But very quickly for our viewers, do you mind introducing yourself to our viewers?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you very much. Again, everybody for having me. It's a great opportunity for me to get to know folks in a little different way. This is really exciting. You know, I'm a 34-year resident of the city of Ramsey. I came here looking to lay down some roots, and I had a plan to start a business, get a house, and have a family. And like many of you, Anoka County has become my home. And for those decades, not only have I been able to realize our dreams as a family, but we've been able to be part of an extended community of people that we love and just love to be around. And so, you know, I'm one of 6 kids in a family of folks that grew up in the city of Rochester, and that's kind of where I think I grew up. But I really believe that the last 34 years I've spent here in Ramsey has been the place where I've learned the most, and I'm excited about connecting to the community as I go through this next adventure as being potential District 1 County Commissioner.
John, just so you know that I work in the county, so you're my mayor. Hopefully you're going to be my commissioner. So it's really a privilege to have you on the show. So let's begin with what's happening around the world today, John. As you know, COVID-19 has affected people, families, individually, businesses, learning institutions, but from your end, as a person, as a family, and as the city of Ramsey, how are you dealing with this?
Wow. You know, I think I'm probably going to echo what everybody's hearing or what everybody's experiencing, and that's just the unusual nature of how crazy this is and how dynamic it is, especially during the last number of months where things were changing so quickly. You know, as a mayor, I never really thought that I would end up in this role where I would be managing a pandemic from a community perspective. It just, one of the first things that we got was this very thick book talking about emergency management systems and processes. And so, of course, somewhere there late in March, we pulled that book off the shelf and we said it's time to go at it. And as we opened it up, I mean, we knew what we were looking for, and that was for, our system to be implemented, but we didn't have a chapter in there about pandemic. And so a lot of it was really just learn on the fly. And to be honest with you, the way that we've been dealing with this is it's been very organic. We're making sure that, we're listening to the scientists, we're taking direction from the state, we're interpreting messaging, and then we're trying to filter it through in a way that allows for our residents to have access to good information. And the intent is let's try to eliminate sort of the fear and the chaos around all of the, the sort of the craziness. And let's put it into a structure that allows for us all to be able to kind of rely on each other. And that's so important. Again, it's just how do we create a sense of calm in a community of dynamic change? And it's been going really well. And I just tell you that right now, because it's the way I view this world too, it takes a community to come together to support a community, especially in crisis. And so our residents have been very open to hearing from us and very open to the dynamics around it. Our staff has been dynamic and crazy dedicated to making sure that we are getting good information and we're all working together. Super patient. And then, of course, my elected colleagues have been very supportive. And like I said, I think we've shown good leadership, and I'm proud to be part of how that's been managed.
Very optimistic view sentiment to share with our viewers, John. You know, in our private conversations, one thing I learned about you, you're very relatable, easy to deal with. You are a fantastic listener. You are really what, like I said in the intro, really a good example of the Minnesota nice person. Very easy, very understanding, I love that, and I'm sure during the conversation our viewers are going to find the same. So as you look forward to, again, you're obviously it's a campaign trailer to become the Anoka County Commissioner. We'll talk about that in a moment. People are interested on your role as mayor of Ramsey. If you could you share with our viewers, what do you think are some of your greatest achievements as mayor of Ramsey?
I appreciate that. I mean, I would love to, and I can. I would love to list like 3, 5, 8 things that are completely amazing. And, you know, I think there's a number of those things. I struggle a little bit with taking all the credit for anything. Obviously, on my watch, whatever happens is assigned to, you know, my watch, which good and bad. But I think largely some of the things that I'm most proud of around my time as an elected official in the city of Ramsey has been community engagement. That's the one that I want to throw out there as first and foremost. Community engagement falls along a couple of different lines, at least for the way I think about it. One of it is transparency. And things are going great in a community until they're not. And so when they're not going that well, people don't necessarily pay much of attention to things. And that's when it makes transparency and engagement even more. But when we're living in a community like Ramsey, where there's a lot of growth and there's a lot of change, that creates a little more awareness to what's happening at the elected level. So my role as a mayor has been to work with our staff and our teams to make sure that we're always reaching out to the community and looking for their guidance and their feedback. And so we really have developed a system now whereby when things that come forward like developments or neighborhoods or large projects in the community, we reach out and we ask for the community to come forward and sit down, do listening sessions and interacting sessions with us so that we can get good feedback. And then with that feedback, I mean, it's the data that we use to be able to make good decisions. And so I'm just going to say that if it's the city of Ramsey and some of the things I'm most proud of, it's our willingness and ability to reach out to the folks and meet them where they're at. And I love that. And so Jeremiah, if you want me to continue, I mean, we can talk about, you know, how many thousands of square feet of, you know, commercial space we put in, or bridges and overpasses and all the challenges. But I mean, that's what I feel most honored by is having those opportunities.
A good section of our audience do not necessarily live in the county of Anoka. They do live in other counties across the state, and obviously others are watching from across the country, and they really want to move to Minnesota, and more specifically move to live in either Ramsey or in the county of Anoka. What do you think should people come and work and live in your county?
You know what? It's one of the fastest growing counties in the state right now. Our demographics are changing. So it's real dramatic. And so I think we're poised with this opportunity for a lot of growth and expansion. And so this means like new housing, new business, new development, and all of those things that are setting the stage for people to be successful. And so it's having opportunities. So if you come to Anoka County and live with us here, you'll have opportunities for jobs. You'll have opportunities for a lifestyle that's right for you. You'll be able to raise a family. You'll also be able to do it in a way that's more affordable. Being like kind of a third or fourth ring suburb where, you know, we don't have some of the same cost of living that you would have if you were in the Minneapolis core. And so you get the benefit of that. Plus you get the benefit of the open and the rural spaces so that, you know, there's recreation and ways to engage with, you know, the community in so many different ways. And so again, I think that the opportunities are the growth, And the opportunities are the fact that we're welcoming to that growth. And then obviously the challenges is how are we all going to work together to make sure that we meet the needs of this changing community in a way that does it right for everybody. And that's really a cool project.
In the intro there, I work I don't necessarily live in Anoka, but I work in the community college. I teach there, so it's a fantastic place to be. I love being in Anoka. I love going to the restaurants, and quite a number of my family members also live in the county, so I really appreciate what the people of Anoka are doing there. So I appreciate that. So as you know, John, the KDRTV primarily focuses on the diaspora community, and most of whom actually are immigrants from the African continent. And I know this might be a fairly new territory for you, but will be as nice as we can, or as nice as Minnesota nice. What has been your experience working with especially minorities or immigrants? And I know the wording might be problematic, but just be yourself.
I will. Thank you for throwing it out there so kindly to me. Because I sit here as a white guy, just kind of making it up as I go a little bit to some degree, learning along the way. And that's really important for me to identify, is that I'm a student of this change. And I want to show up as being open as a learner. And I also want to show up as the type of individual who understands sort of the nature of this complexity. And to some extent, it maybe then from this point, I want to share with you a little insight about me that might help you know how I could be prepared to start to have some of these conversations that are so important. And so if it's fair, I'm 61 years old, and so I've had, 61 rotations around the sun, and I'm continually learning and growing and evolving, and I'm still becoming even more aware of who I am and what my history has brought me to this place. What in my history has brought me to this place, and I would tell you that when I was a young kid, I always thought I was a little different. I didn't know that I really fit in. And so I saw myself as not being sort of the mainstream kid. And with that, I always looked around me to try to find people that are like me. And I was drawn toward, what I will call like the marginalized kids, the ones that were picked on or the ones that didn't have a lot of friends. And I seek those people out. And what I found there was I had access to things that I needed from my friends or peers, and that was access to feelings and access to conversations. And that just helped me grow so much as an individual, and that stayed with me as my DNA wiring as I went into adulthood and stuff like that. And it allowed me to be open to understanding the diversity that lives in a population and how people need to support each other. And that's a fabulous thing for me. And so as I even transitioned into my adult world, we have an adult son with a disability. And so I've always had this wonderful connection with the disability community, and this ability to listen and to understand what their needs are, and then to be able to support them so that they can integrate themselves and be more inclusive in our community. And that's just what amazing things can happen if we can remove barriers and if we can help other people understand the value in this segment of the population. So Jeremiah, this is kind of where I'm at. And like I said, as I'm moving into this role, I'm finding more and more of this is coming toward me. And I like the idea of embracing with that. I like being that advocate for everyone. If that makes sense, I hope it does.
Yes, John. One of the, even by virtue of the fact that you're able to appear here itself is a statement. You didn't even have to make a sentence. I think that speaks volumes about who you are. The point is that you want to reach out, you want to connect. Most of the diasporans or immigrants really don't have a platform like this where they can exchange ideas in a manner or in a language that is understandable to them. But the fact that you chose to come on the air to talk to us directly is really very respectful, and we want to appreciate you. And quite frankly, talking to you, I don't see why we wouldn't be talking in about 2-3 years, why we won't be talking about you being the governor of the state of Minnesota. We'll be very happy to do that in a later segment. But for now, let's talk about John, let's talk about the Anoka County Commissioner. Some people are wondering, what is this even? What is the position and why are you running for this particular position?
You know, I've had such a great experience. Like I say, I'm humbled by my mayorship and what I've been able to do and how I've been able to be part of a community and give back. And this seems like it's a natural transition for me. It does come from a calling. And so as over the last number of months and year or so, there's been a calling. It's like, well, we need your style of leadership to come toward the county and help the county grow and help the county, change and meet the dynamics of the change that's happening. And so that's what's pulled me toward it. Oddly enough, as I'm out talking to folks, I ask the questions and I listen to what they're telling me. And one of the things I say or ask is, do you know what a county commissioner does? And most people don't. And to some degree, I think that's interesting, but then it's sort of understandable because it's a really important role, but it's not a role that has a lot of visibility just by the nature of the way that they show up. It's not a governor and it's not a mayor either. And so the way I see it is that as a mayor, I support my city and my community, and I'm a resource for that community, and I pull things together and bring change or solve issues that are in a community. And now as a county commissioner, I see my role shifting a little bit. I'm now serving the mayors that are in my district and in my county. And it's having conversations with them so that I can understand what their needs are from their citizens, their residents. And then I can be this resource that can pull resources toward those mayors to help them and help us grow together. And so I even think about it as I support the mayor and I have this opportunity to bring resources forward, but I also support through the use of my resources at the state level and at the federal level. And by doing that, I become this conduit where resources flow and ideas and solutions all flow through this county kind of hub. And that's my role. And so I'll be that listener and I'll be that person that brings resources forward. It's in a servant leadership role. That's a continuation of that.
Part of your role, we've done this before and you will be doing that. Hopefully you get elected, that position will be making decisions. And I was going around to checking the demographics for the county of Anoka. I noted that there are almost 30,000 foreign-born residents in that county. Of those, 18,000 are naturalized citizens. So really, if elected, there are more than 30,000 immigrants who you're really going to make decisions that may or may not work for them. So, and they want to have a good understanding. Yes, you're a very nice guy, very relatable, that's okay, but making decisions can be tougher because really it's based on data or based on facts. So what informs your decision-making process?
Well, I mean, broadly, the way I show up and the way I do work is I talk openly about the issues, and around that, it's getting the conversations going. It's more listening than anything, and then even beyond, then the next aspect of that is collecting the diverse opinions and making sure that we've got a broad representation of what is needed, and I really struggle again because this is not a single focus. Sometimes it's the loudest voice that gets the attention, and that's important to hear that voice. But it's also, you need to filter it from the perspective of the entire the audience that's there. And so it's collecting this diverse opinions and then arriving at the best solutions together. And so again, broadly, that's how this should be done. This is how I work. And what I want to do in this role is not only do I want to bring that forward and I want to include that into what is occurring culturally inside the decision-making process at the county, but I also have to some degree, offer this as a change, because I think that to some degree we still are operating as if it was 20 years ago in regards to how we understand what's happening with the dynamics and the diversity in the county. And I think it's this is the time and place, I think, where we can make that change. And I believe that's what I'm being called to do to some extent here, is to really represent broadly everyone in the county.
You know, one thing I'm liking about you, I haven't heard you say I. You are saying we. You see, that really gives us an idea that you're a very inclusive person, and I think that's the kind of county commissioner that we are most likely going to see in the next 30 or 40 plus days. So I was on your website, and I did notice that you're talking a lot about common sense leadership. What does that really mean?
Again, you know what? The world shows up so much like black and white and on and off and X and Y or yes and no. And I don't think the decisions are made from that perspective. I think good decisions are made by trusting your gut, going with your values, and leading courageously for everyone. That's more common sense. And what I think we struggle with is this polarized right and left and whatever's on the fringe. There's just way too much of that. And we're done with, I think we're tired of that. And so I just want to bring common sense in. Let's just work together. We're all neighbors. We all want the same thing. Let's just talk about it, okay? And then let's figure out what's best for all of us. That's common sense.
Sometimes as a psychologist always say, oh, common sense, but how common is common sense? Sometimes you wonder, people say it's common because it's informed by somebody's experiences. And as you know, somebody's experience may not be the other person's experience. So let's look at the 30,000 plus non- or foreign-born immigrants who live in your county, right? So based on what you know, and I'm sure, I'm glad you said earlier on, it's a learning process. You have to learn, unlearn, and continue to learn. I think that's what we all do as human beings, and I appreciate that you're acknowledging that part of we as a human race. So that's important. So what specific issues do you believe the minorities in your district or your county really face, and how will you handle them?
Jeremiah, say that again. I didn't quite track on the last part of that, or the middle part of that sentence, or the question.
So what are some of the specific issues that you believe affect the minorities in your districts, and more so the immigrants?
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And so this is early polling, so I've only been able to interact with a small number of the minority group that's in the county, but when I do interact and I ask these questions, I find consistencies very early around what the experience is like for a minority in the county. Most of the experiences in the conversation I'm having are that the immigrants especially are thrilled to be living here. And they actually believe that they are experiencing their version of the American dream, which gives me such great joy and warms my heart. But then they also talk about some of the challenges around that and how even to some degree they struggle for whatever reason with this feeling of being welcomed all the time. And so that's an interesting thing for me to hear. And it makes me want to dig into that a little bit more and to try to understand what it is about welcoming that they're not having, or the way they're not feeling that way. And I'm also more curious about, how I might interpret that from where I am too, because I feel to some degree that there are cases when I feel welcomed and there's others where I don't. And I want to feel welcomed. And so that's an interesting element that I'm going after. But more broadly, or more focused, is jobs. I'm really challenged by some opportunities that we have to improve the lives of everyone, including immigrants and minorities, around jobs. And high-paying jobs need to be brought into Anoka County, more high-paying jobs. And we need to find ways to include and create access for everybody, including immigrants and minorities, to have access to these jobs. And so, you know, right now it's almost like 58.7% of us leave the county every day to find work. And there's many stories of us that have 3 jobs just to make ends meet. And what I'm proposing is that we continue to work as a community, as a county, to try to figure out ways to bring more jobs into Anoka County and more higher paying jobs, and then find ways to be able to make it easier for everybody to have access to these jobs. And that's the training that goes with it. And it's the, you know, just the orientation around how that work is and what the resources look like. I mean, our workforce is there. We just need to melt them together and find connections. And I think that's a huge challenge. And then from there, you know, it even can go into housing and just the neighborhoods where we all want to live, and how we need to be respectful of kind of where you're at in your life and what style of housing is appropriate for you, and how we can create opportunities for you to get into some housing that allows you to have independence and to start to build a structure around better housing or new lives or better lives. And I think that's a challenge also. And, you know, I'm ready to have those conversations. And so, Jeremiah, this is really, again, I'm just learning so much, but I think the role is going to offer me this really cool palette for me to have these fun conversations. Fun, that's a weird word, fun, but I really want to make a difference. And to me, it gives me joy, and that's where I get fun. But I really want to embrace that, and I want to be part of it. And I need people to be there with me.
So I think you've answered. Thank you, John. I think you've answered pretty much the next question I was going to ask you. Really, how to handle that? You've answered that very, very eloquently. So, more specifically, have you thought of ways once elected? You know, sometimes politicians talk, and once they talk, the elections are done. They're gone. So, have you thought of ways in which once, and we wish you the best, obviously, if you win, have you thought of ways in which you're going to continue connecting with the minorities? Because again, like I said, you know the data really. The data is clearly showing that in the state of Minnesota, the children who are under age of 10 and who belong to that category of minorities are more than the Caucasians. So meaning, over the next decade or two, the minorities in the state of Minnesota will be the majority. Meaning, unless we start addressing those specific issues that affect the minorities, probably the state might not even be competitive. And I think this would be an opportunity for the county of Anoka to take the lead. So if elected, is there a way that you're going to connect more specifically with the minorities?
I think that's a great question. And I listened to the interview that was just before mine, and your Elias was a wonderful presenter, but he did call it out. And he said that, you know, we often, politicians sort of disappear after the election. And I just don't think that's the direction that I'm going to be going. I've never disappeared, that's for sure. And so to some degree, you're going to hold me accountable to that. And you're going to make me responsible because I'm reaching out today and I'm starting this conversation now. And so once elected, we're going to stay on the topic. We're going to keep the conversation alive. The campaign that I'm running this year with the COVID, and we can't necessarily go out and door knock and interact with each other, is being run more digitally, and it's online. It's through forums like this. It's we're meeting people again where they're at. And so more of that is coming forward once I'm elected. I love the idea of having these town hall kind of forums and meetings. And I think that's an important part of the way that I see some of my colleagues in elected areas, other elected officials using the interaction piece. They do these forums. I think that's a critical piece there. You know, where I can show up in any way that I can touch or reach younger generations, you know, people in their 20s and then older ones, those are all platforms we'll be looking for. I'm doing a lot of work with independent school districts in the county already. And so that's meeting students and young learners and the potential workforce early. And it's meeting them where they're at again. It's allowing them to have experiences that bring more awareness to their capacities and their capabilities. And it's setting them up for pathways towards success. And that's a huge opportunity for an elected official like myself to continue to drive those kind of things. I'm excited about where this is going to take me, Jeremiah. Honestly, it gives me such good energy. And then the fact that even the community that I'm talking with the Kenyans right now, is they get excited with me, and I can feel that. And that's the motivation for me right now. I think is just to continue to create that value, and then it fills my bucket with joy. And that's why I'm serving. I think it's to be with people and make a difference.
Okay, very good. So it's for almost less than 50 days before elections, John, across the state, around the country. Obviously, we're not going to do the specifics of who one has to vote for or not vote for. That depends on individual political persuasions. But why do you think people should really vote this time around?
Wait, say that again. Well, how do I think people should vote?
Why should people vote this time? Well, I'm asking you, why do you think? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, perfect. There's so much churn, right now with COVID and with social unrest and just all of the issues that are happening in our society. I think we're at a place right now where if you vote, you get to participate. And without your participation, we're going to get the same stuff, or it's going to keep going down a road that we don't really want to be on. And as I said, I think from what I'm hearing is that people are really tired of this churn that's left and right. And they're looking for something that, again, resembles a little bit more stability and less chaos. And that in itself is a reason to get out and vote. Get your voice out there and make a difference. And then become part of the conversation, because then you will be part of the solution. And I believe that's how we assure future generations of all of us. That's how we're going to live. I think it's what is missing right now is that larger view forward about how we are going to manage the next generation or the next number of years. And that again is another reason to get out there, because we got to have those conversations. I think it's really important.
So I got to ask you this, John, on a lighter note. Have you ever had a chance to test any African food? If any, what was it?
Oh my gosh. I'm a foodie like crazy, and I'm actually an excellent chef. And the closest thing that I think I can relate to is it's the cultural aspects of what's come through African food in soul food. And that's the chunk that I think I can best attach to. And so I hate it when they reword it, but I love it when it's like raw, just sort of right down to the earth soul food. And that's like using all the parts that nobody wants and turning it into something amazing. And I love that experience, and I've had several of those. And so I crave like a real soul food restaurant that just oozes culture, and that's I'll look more for that. But I wish I could pick a dish, but it's a style.
No, the good news is that you have a lot of residents in your county. So as you go through the campaign, I'm sure they'll be inviting you to their homes, and you'll enjoy a lot of delicious food. So again, I think we're running out of time now, John. You want to make your closing statement, so I'm going to allow you 1 or 2 minutes to make a closing statement to the people in Anoka County and people who were interested in coming in to live and work in the county.
I'm going to keep it short for everyone, of course, because you don't want to give a politician a microphone. That can be dangerous. So I will tell you that I am so excited about this journey, and it's just been a really fun learning experience. I can't tell you enough about how open I am to hearing more about what's important in our county and how I can play a role in making a significant difference. I know it'll be a place and time. I'll know I do the best I can, but I want to be a voice and an advocate for all of our residency. And I want to do this in a way that allows us to be all part of the conversation. And I want to make sure that what we're doing with our government is in an appropriate way that supports what our residents want. I'm just going to be honest with you. And I'm not seeing that enough right now in Anoka County. I think that we have a great opportunity for some significant change. And I want to be that change person for all of you. I want to make Anoka County our county again. And I just want to tell you that your support for the election and your support for what we're going to do beyond that is so important. And I don't want to do it alone. And I want to feel like I'm in it with you guys, with everyone. And I look forward to whatever that brings toward us. So thank you for this opportunity to come forward, Jeremiah, and interact with you folks. Let's take it from here. Let's see where we can go with this. Let's keep this conversation alive. As I said, I'm a student of this, and I want to be a learner. And I think the best way for me to learn is to listen and interact appropriately. So thank you very much for having me here today.
Good. John, I have a last question for you for making you answer this question. Somebody is asking me, hey, Jeremiah, can you ask him what makes him look so young? What makes you look so young?
I love it. Hey, it's clean living, okay? Let's just go with that. So I smile a lot. I look for joy every day. And I find that I found it here already. So that's where it is. I'm just so thankful. Whoever that is, it must be my wife or somebody that gave that comment to you or that question. But thank you for saying that. It's too kind.
Oh, John, keep being young, keep being young. Anyway, thanks, John. Thank you. It was very nice talking to you, and I'm sure it's the beginning of many, many conversations and partnerships that are going to come in the future, so that we not only grow KDRTV, but also make the county of Anoka so proud, and together we'll make the state of Minnesota as proud as should be. So thank you again for talking to KDRTV.
You are so welcome. Bless you. Bless you all. Thank you for having me.
Good. Thank you. And viewers, so much for being with us today. So I want to encourage you again before we sign off, if you could please go to Facebook or right there on facebook.com and KDRTV. Just please go there and make your comment. Feedback is very important for us. Let's know how we can improve. That's critical as well. If you could go to YouTube, on YouTube, KDRTV, and subscribe. All you need to do is go to KDRTV, click subscribe, and that should be good for us to really get to partner with you. As well, we're on Twitter. You can go on Twitter and also follow us there. That would be great. So in about 24 minutes, we'll be back on the show again, where we'll be talking about COVID-19. We're going to have two very, very distinguished doctors, medical doctors, Dr. Edwin Bogongo and Dr. Andrew Kirago. We're going to talk about managing, treating COVID-19. So that will be in about 20 minutes. But in the meantime, thank you so much for being with us again. And don't forget that next week at 11 Central Time, we're going to come here right on the show to talk about the African Development Center. They will be on the show to talk about the business community, particularly those who are immigrants. What does it really take to start a business and run a successful business, and how do you get funding, if any? What challenges, and how do we overcome those challenges? So Nasibu Sarafa, the director or the executive director of the African Development Center, will be right here on KDRTV next week at 11 Central Time. So again, thank you for watching us here. We'll be seeing you again in about 25 minutes when we talk about COVID-19 with Dr. Kiragu and Dr. Bogongo.